What's up guys, Jens Garcia here, and this is the Huawei Ascend G6. I've been using it for a few weeks and I've got to say it's very refreshing to my eyes as I always use Samsung, HTC and Sony phones. So it's basically a mid-range device from the company, and even though it's a mid-range device, the performance has been really good. Now let's first take a look at the design before we talk about how it performs and all of that. So it's a very compact design and it actually feels really great in the hand, and the fact that it's a very small smartphone compared to the One M8, Galaxy S5 and the G3, you won't have a problem putting this in your pocket. You'll also notice a similar design to the P2 and P6, and at the same time, it is very identical to the iPhone 4. Now there's a nice metal frame around the phone that adds extra point to the overall look of the phone, and a removable back which will give you an access to the micro SD card and SIM card slot. Now overall, the Ascend G6 isn't a bad looking device for a mid-range phone, and I really love how light it is. It has a 4.5-inch 960 by 540 LCD display, which is probably a bit of a letdown since I was hoping it would be at least 720p display, as that's kind of like my standard for a mid-range phone. But quality-wise, you can't really compare it to a high-end device with a full HD resolution, though it still produces a good amount of brightness, viewing angles, and a decent amount of saturation. Performance-wise, it is powered by a Qualcomm Snapdragon 400 processor, 1GB of RAM as well as 2000 mAh of battery, 8GB of internal storage, and it's running Android 4.3 JellyBean, so no KitKat yet. And of course, it also has a Huawei's updated version of Emotion UI on top of it. Over to the connectivity, this Australian edition is LTE compatible and has Wi-Fi B, G, and N, as well as Bluetooth 4.0. Now I've used different Huawei phones over the past, and since then I haven't really been that impressed with the overall performance. The lack of user friendliness, I guess, as well as the optimization were very noticeable once you get your hands on it. The G6, I've gotta say, it's nothing like that. The phone is really fast and really responsive thanks to the updated Emotion UI or Emotion UI 2.0, and it's about time that they've finally lightened it up. And trust me, comparing this UI to their previous ones, the difference is day and night. In fact, it felt faster than some of today's flagship devices. There's the addition of Simple UI, which has a much simpler interface, hence the name of it. And I have to say, it looks a lot like Windows Phone UI. I don't know about you, let me know in the comments below. Overall, in my opinion, both of these UIs aren't the best looking UIs still, but you can always install Nova Launcher if you want a much more of a stock looking UI, although I really appreciate how fluid and responsive it is compared to the previous UI. So kudos to Huawei. So when this device announced, they really wanted to get our attention to the front-facing camera, or the selfie cam as what Huawei loves to call it. It is a 5-megapixel camera with wide-angled lens, which will allow you to take a wider field of view, and I have to say it's actually quite impressive. In fact, I find the colors a lot better, or slightly better, on this compared to the One M8, but that's just my opinion. Over to the back, it also has an 8-megapixel camera with BSI sensor, and with the rear camera, I'm really surprised that some shots are surprisingly good for a mid-range device. In daylight and well-lit situations, photos turned out fine, although sometimes it could be a little exposed. It has a pretty good macro capability as well, which is really good for close-up shots. And in terms of low light shots, they're okay, but I always have to use the HDR to get some decent results at least, but it certainly isn't a bad performer either thanks to the BSI sensor. Now I've used this phone on so many occasions, and I'll say it straight away, the battery is very good. It lasts to me for a full day of heavy usage, so that's including tethering, taking photos, using social media, and watching a few YouTube videos. So that's kind of how I call it as my heavy usage. So it will still depend on you, but the battery in this overall is really good. The standby time is very good as well. It can easily last for 3 to 4 days or maybe more. So overall, the battery is not a letdown. Of course, there's a lot of things on this device that aren't just available, but as for the device itself, I think Huawei have done a really great job on this device. But the only problem is that it's really hard to recommend because there are so many other, cheaper smartphones out there that are close to the price of the G6, like the Nexus 5 or the OnePlus One, which is still hard to get right now, but you get the point. Alright, so there you have it, guys. That is the Huawei Ascend G6. Thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, then please make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel to see more content from us. And as always, I'm Jens Garcia from Tech for Geeks, and I'll see you all in the next one.